Rot did not defeat medieval builders, and it was not because their climate was kinder or their wood was magically stronger. Across Europe, timber structures face constant rain, ground moisture, insects, and freezing winters. Yet barns, bridges, halls, and ships endured for centuries. The reason is uncomfortable for modern construction culture. Medieval builders did not fight rot with coatings. They prevented it with a principle so obvious it is now overlooked. That principle was control of air and moisture movement, achieved before the wood ever went into service. Their greatest anti-rot weapon was not a substance, it was exposure. Medieval builders understood that wood rots when it cannot breathe. Rot, you know, actually requires three things: moisture, warmth, and food. Now, medieval craftsmen couldn't control the weather, of course, but they could, in fact, control the other two. By removing the wood's internal food supply and making sure there was constant airflow, they managed to break the decay cycle permanently. And this is really why so many medieval timbers still survive uncovered in damp regions even today. They were never, you know, sealed. Instead, they were conditioned to dry out repeatedly. The first hidden weapon, was deliberate sap removal through water conditioning. The first hidden weapon was, deliberate sap removal through water conditioning. Freshly cut timber contains sugars, starches and proteins that fungi consume once moisture activates them. Medieval builders did not leave those nutrients in place. Logs were submerged in rivers, streams, lakes and ponds for extended periods. Flowing water was preferred, but cold, still water worked when conditions were stable. This soaking leached sap from the wood slowly and evenly. The process did not weaken the timber, it stabilized it. Once dried, the wood became far less attractive to decay organisms because, there was nothing left to eat. A modern application is straightforward. Submerge untreated wood completely for several weeks. Weight it down to prevent floating. Keep it shaded to avoid surface heating. After removal, stack it off the ground under cover with space between pieces. Allow air drying over time. This single step dramatically improves longevity. The second weapon was harvesting trees when biology was weakest. Medieval foresters cut timber in winter whenever possible. Sap flow was minimal. Insect activity was low. Fungal spores were less active. This reduced nutrient content before soaking even began. For modern builders, winter harvested wood or dormant season cutting offers a clear advantage. Even commercial lumber benefits from soaking, but, naturally, low sap timber performs best over decades. The third weapon was slow seasoning instead of forced drying. After soaking, medieval timber was never rushed into construction. Beams and planks were stacked on stone or timber supports to keep them off the ground. Roofs or simple shelters protected them from rain, but crucially, air circulated freely. Slow drying allowed cell walls to contract, evenly closing internal capillaries that wick moisture inward. Rapid modern drying often creates microscopic cracks that later trap water. medieval builders avoided this failure by waiting. Applying this today means patience. Even kiln-dried wood benefits from acclimating outdoors under cover before use. Time spent seasoning is time added to lifespan. The fourth weapon was controlled charring, not surface coating. The fourth weapon was controlled charring, not surface coating. Where exposure was severe, such as posts, cladding and ship hulls, medieval builders often charred the surface lightly. This burned off remaining sugars near the exterior, hardened fibres, and created a water-shedding surface without sealing the wood airtight. Charred wood dries quickly after rain. It resists insects. It does not peel or crack like paint. The treatment works because the wood beneath has already been prepared through soaking and seasoning. So, a practical method, really, involves passing a flame evenly over the surface until it darkens. Once it's cooled, any loose char is brushed away. The result, well, is breathable, durable timber that can withstand repeated wetting. The fifth weapon, you see, was elevation and separation from soil moisture. Medieval builders, interestingly, rarely placed wood directly in contact with earth. Posts would rest on stone pads. Sills sat on masonry. Even temporary structures, you know, were lifted just slightly above the ground. This separation prevented constant moisture saturation, and more importantly, it allowed airflow beneath timbers, accelerating drying after storms. Modern construction often traps wood against concrete or soil, creating permanent damp conditions. Elevating wood even a few centimetres restores the medieval advantage. The sixth weapon was joint design that shed water instead of trapping it. The sixth weapon was joint design that shed water instead of trapping it. Medieval joints were shaped to drain. Mortices were angled, surfaces sloped, overhangs protected walls. Timber frames allowed air movement through the structure. These details mattered more than any coating. Wood that dries quickly survives. Wood that traps moisture rots. So, applying this knowledge means, well, avoiding sealed joints, allowing for ventilation gaps, and, designing structures that can accept wetting without actually holding on to it. Why does this weapon remain hidden, even though it's standing in plain sight? Modern building culture, treats wood as fragile and moisture as the enemy. But medieval builders, they treated wood as resilient and moisture as inevitable. Their solution was really quite clever. Remove decay's fuel and ensure drying could always occur. This anti-rot weapon, interestingly enough, still works because it is based on biology, not chemistry. It does not wear out, it does not peel, and it does not depend on reapplication schedules. If you value construction knowledge proven by centuries of exposure, do consider subscribing to Thermal Vault. Share this guide with those who build and restore, and help preserve methods that modern shortcuts continue to forget. If you value construction knowledge proven by centuries of exposure, subscribe to Thermal Vault. Share this guide with those who build and restore, and help preserve methods that modern shortcuts continue to forget.